He hears the insult before we do. Not loud, not shouted. Just a knife slipped under the skin of a quiet hotel lobby. Here we go again, the black guy trying to play the hero. Jordan Brooks doesn't turn around. He doesn't have to. He already knows the voice behind him, and he already knows the weight of that sentence. But right now, he's looking at someone who's fighting back tears. A young woman stands at the front desk. Faded gray hoodie. Jeans worn thin at the knees. Backpack cutting into her shoulders like it's the only thing she owns. She's holding her wallet like it might fall apart if she opens it too wide. I'm sorry, she stammers. I don't have enough for the full deposit. I just got back to town. I don't have anywhere else to go tonight. Bills. A tired debit card. Hands shaking. Jordan watches her chest rise and fall in that fragile way people breathe when they're trying not to break in public. Behind him, a low chuckle. Told you. She can't even cover the basics. That's Kevin. Clean suit. Dirty heart. Another voice, sharper. That's not our kind of guest at this hour, Jordan. Just tell her we're full. That's Lily. Manicure flawless. Mercy missing. Jordan could ignore it. He's learned to do that. He could hide behind the policy. He's memorized word for word. Instead, he turns the screen slightly away from his coworkers and leans toward the girl like it's just the two of them in the whole world. What's your name? He asks softly. She hesitates. You can see the battle in her eyes. Trust versus shame. Emily, she says finally. No last name. She shrugs, almost apologizing for existing. Just Emily. Okay, Emily. He lowers his voice. Breathe for me. One good breath. She drags in air like it hurts, then lets it go in a shaky exhale. While she does, his fingers fly over the keyboard. Room inventory. Rates. House count. There's still rooms available. Plenty. It looks like we do have a standard room for tonight, he says. One bed. Quiet floor. Her eyes flicker with hope and fear. How much is it? She whispers. He knows that tone. It's the sound of someone bracing for disappointment. I've applied for a small internal discount, he says carefully. No extras. Just the room. It's the best I can do. He tilts the screen so she can see the total. Her face tightens. She counts the cash in her hands again. Once. Twice. Lips moving silently. It still doesn't reach the number on the screen. Is there a cheaper option? She asks. Can you take half the deposit now and the rest tomorrow? Before Jordan can answer, Kevin steps in, that fake hotel smile pasted on. This is a 5-star property, ma'am. We have standards. If you can't afford the deposit, there's a budget place down the street. Maybe they can help. Emily's shoulders fold inward, like she's been hit. I just need one night, she pleads. I can pay the rest tomorrow, I swear. Lily's nails tap the counter like a tiny gavel. We can't hold rooms on promises, she cuts in. It's a policy. Policy. Jordan knows the section number. The corporate language. He also knows what it's like to stand outside with a sleeping child in his arms, 3 crumpled bills in his pocket, and nowhere to go. He looks at Emily, at her cheap backpack, at the exhaustion written into her posture. Emily, he asks gently, how short are you? She flushes, as if the number itself is embarrassing. She tells him, it's not a lot, but to her, tonight it's everything. He nods slowly, more to himself than to her. Down the hall, a manager laughs at a joke. A bell dings. A printer hums. Normal hotel sounds. Inside Jordan's chest, though, something else is buzzing. Compassion. Fear. A decision. He can follow the rules, or he can follow his heart. One keeps his job safe. One keeps a stranger off the street. At this moment, what does real heroism look like? And which price is he actually willing to pay? Asterisk, before we go on, put yourself in Jordan's shoes for a second. You've got your own bills, your own child, your own worries. Would you help her anyway? Tell me honestly in the comments what you think you'd do. Asterisk. He reaches slowly toward his back pocket. The wallet feels heavier than it should. Jordan pulls it out, every movement slow, like he can still talk himself out of this. Behind him, Kevin scoffs. Oh, come on. You're not seriously doing this. Lily doesn't even bother whispering. Unbelievable. The black guy has to swoop in and save the day again. The word black hangs there, not a fact, a weapon. Jordan's jaw tightens. His pulse pounds. But his hands are steady. He flips open the worn wallet. Inside, the bills aren't just paper. They're groceries, electricity, gas to get his daughter to school, the $5 Maya asked for to buy supplies for her big project. He counts quickly. He knows exactly how much there is, exactly how far it has to stretch. He peels out the difference between what Emily has and what she needs. It's not a fortune, but it's enough to hurt. He lays the cash on the counter between them. Consider the deposit covered, he says quietly. I'll make a note in the system. You can pay me back when you're able, or one day, if you see someone else stuck like this, you help them. Deal. Emily stares at the money like it's not real. Why would you do that? She whispers. He gives her a tired half-smile. Because somebody did it for me. Me and my daughter. A long time ago. And I know too well what it feels like to think there isn't a single door in this city willing to open for you. Kevin laughs under his breath. Bro, you are going to regret that. When management sees that receipt, you're done. Lily adds, almost sing-song. And when they fire you, I really hope that girl is worth it. Their words land. Of course they do. Jordan feels the fear twist in his stomach. Rent, daycare, everything flashing through his mind, but his fingers don't flinch as he prints the form. Sign here, please, he tells Emily. She signs just Emily. The letters slope downhill, like they're exhausted too. He doesn't press for more. He encodes the key card. That tiny square of plastic slides warm into his palm, gold edge catching the lobby lights. Room 1215, he says, handing it to her. Elevator to your right, 12th floor. You'll be okay up there. She takes it like it might evaporate if she squeezes too hard. Her eyes linger on his name tag. Thank you, Jordan, she says softly. I'll pay you back tomorrow. I promise. Get some rest, he replies. You look like you haven't done that in a while. At the elevator, she turns once more, really looking at him. Not as a clerk. Not as a rule breaker. Like she's memorizing him. Then the doors close. Silence swallows the lobby again. Jordan exhales a breath he didn't notice he was holding. You're dead, Kevin says flatly. You know that, right? Lily smirks. When the general manager goes through last night's logs, you're gone. Over nobody in a hoodie. Jordan doesn't answer. He straightens the paperwork, adds a careful note, tries to make it all look as normal as possible. But the truth sits heavy. He broke policy. On camera. With witnesses. And for what? For a stranger he may never see again. If quiet stories of compassion and courage like this hit you in the chest, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what happens when this nobody in a hoodie walks back into his life. Hours later, dawn threatens the horizon as he walks home, pockets lighter, heart heavier. He has no idea that the girl he just rescued is about to come back and rescue him in a way he can't even imagine. When the phone on his desk rings the next morning, his boss orders him to conference room 3. Now, is this the moment everything he risked finally catches up with him? The hallway to conference room 3 feels longer than it ever has. Jordan's holding a thin stack of papers, last night's check-in logs. On the surface, it's just printer ink and timestamps. To him, it's evidence. Evidence that he chose compassion over policy, over safety, over his own paycheck. Front desk, Jordan speaking. That was less than 10 minutes ago. Conference room 3. Bring last night's logs. That was Mr. Harris, the general manager. Voice dry. No quorums. No hint of what's waiting upstairs. Now fluorescent lights hum overhead as he walks. He catches his reflection in a window. Dark skin. Dark eye bags. Tie slightly crooked. Name tag perfectly straight. Jordan Brooks. Front desk associate. Single dad. Rule breaker. He reaches the door. Pauses. Knocks. Come in, a woman's voice calls. Not Harris. Not any voice he recognizes. Weird. Jordan steps inside. The air in the room is cooler. Tighter. At the head of the table sits a woman in a navy blazer and white blouse. Hair pulled back in a neat bun. Tablet in front of her. Documents stacked with surgical precision. To her left, Mr. Harris. To her right, Kevin and Lily. Their faces look wrong. Too pale. Too stiff. The woman looks up. Her eyes land on Jordan. For a fraction of a second, something like recognition flickers there. Then it's gone, replaced by a professional calm. "Mr. Brooks," she says, "have a seat." He sits at the far end, logs resting in his hands like a verdict. "Do you know why you're here?" she asks. "I assume it's about last night," he answers. "Man." Her lips curve almost imperceptibly at the ma'am, then straighten. "Let me introduce myself properly," she says. "My name is Amelia White." Jordan's brain stutters. He knows that name. Everybody who works at this hotel knows that name. White Holdings. Aurora Group. The legacy printed on every paycheck and plaque. "I'm the new CEO of Aurora Group," she continues. "And last night, I checked into this hotel under the name Emily." The room shrinks. Time slows. "You," Jordan starts. "You were the guest." "I was," she replies simply. Across the table, Mr. Harris rushes in, sweating in panic. "Miss White, if we had known you were arriving, we would have prepared a proper welcome. A VIP check-in, And that," she cuts him off gently, "is exactly what I didn't want." She folds her hands, eyes moving between all four of them. "Last night," she says, "I came here looking like I had nothing. No status, no money, no power. I wanted to know, in a place my family owns, would I be treated like a human being if I were just another tired woman in a hoodie?" Her gaze lingers on Kevin. Then Lily. "What I saw," she continues, "and what I heard was very revealing." A current of dread pulses through the room. "We were following policy," Kevin blurts. "We can't." "You judged me on my clothes," she says, not raising her voice. "You decided I wasn't worth your time. You joked about sending me somewhere more appropriate. You laughed when your colleague chose to help me." Lily crosses her arms, cheeks burning. "We didn't know it was you," she says defensively. "We thought that I was poor." Amelia finishes. "That I couldn't pay. That I wasn't your kind of guest." Silence. Jordan sits very still. He's grateful for once the focus isn't on him, but he knows it won't last. Amelia turns to him. "Mr. Brooks," she says more softly, "tell me what happened from your perspective." He swallows. No point in lying now. The cameras saw everything. And so did she. He explains it. The walk-in. The short deposit. The fear in Emily's eyes. The money from his own wallet. He doesn't dress it up. He doesn't call himself a hero. He just tells the truth. And as you can see, Mr. Harris jumps in when Jordan finishes. Mr. Brooks clearly violated company policy. Staff are not allowed to cover deposits out of pocket or apply unauthorized discounts. I've warned him before about being overly emotional with guests. If you've ever sat in a room knowing your entire livelihood hangs on someone else's interpretation of your character, you know the feeling in Jordan's chest right now. If a story like this makes you think about times you were judged for how you look, share that moment in the comments. You never know who might need to see they're not alone. Amelia doesn't speak right away. Instead, she reaches into a folder and pulls out a series of grainy photos. Lobby security stills. "I watched the footage," she says. "From the moment I walked in to the moment I took the elevator upstairs." Her finger rests on one frame. 3 figures behind the desk. One woman in a hoodie. "And I listened," she adds quietly, "to every word." Her eyes lift to Kevin and Lily, including, she says, the part where someone said, "Here we go. The black guy playing hero again." The words echo off the glass and wood. Nobody breathes. Who said it? Who's about to lose everything? And what does that mean for the one person in this room who actually chose compassion over rules? Kevin's face drains of color. Lily's eyes dart to the door, to the table, anywhere but Amelia's stare. "Do either of you deny saying any of that?" Amelia asks. Kevin opens his mouth, shuts it. "It was just banter," he mutters. "We didn't mean anything by it." "And that makes it better?" she asks, head tilting slightly. He wilts. Lily tries a different approach. "We were protecting the brand," she insists. "People like that, they bring trouble. It's our job to filter." "People like what?" Amelia asks. No raise in volume. No theatrics. Just a simple question that pins Lily to her chair. "Wearing hoodies? Carrying backpacks? Looking tired?" Amelia presses. Lily's silence says more than words could. That woman you decided didn't belong here, Amelia continues, now decides whether you do. The room goes stone quiet. Mr. Harris shifts uncomfortably, tugging at his tie. Amelia taps the papers together into a neat stack, as if organizing her thoughts. As of this moment, she says, voice clear, Kevin Miller and Lily Harper, your employment with Aurora Crown is terminated. Effective immediately. The word terminated lands like a dropped anvil. Kevin bolts upright. You're firing us. For what exactly? For doing our jobs. For forgetting what your job actually is, Amelia replies. You are here to serve guests with basic human respect, not to audition as judges of who does and does not deserve a roof over their head. Lily's voice shakes with anger. This is insane. No one has ever complained before when. I, Amelia says, am not no one. I'm the person the board hired to clean this culture up. And I don't want anyone on my staff who treats kindness as optional. She glances at Mr. Harris. Please ask security to escort them to collect their belongings. Harris fumbles for his phone. 2 guards appear at the door a minute later, silent and stone-faced. Kevin glares at Jordan as he stands. That glare says everything. This is your fault. You made us look bad. Lily doesn't look at anyone as she walks out. Chin high, heart pounding. The door clicks shut. The room feels bigger, colder. Now it's just Amelia, Harris, and Jordan. Amelia turns back to him. And now, she says, we need to talk about you. Here it is. The part he's been dreading. He broke the rule. He dipped into his own wallet. He gave a discount he wasn't supposed to give. Yes, they were cruel. Yes, they were racist. But he still stepped over the line. You know you violated company policy, Amelia says. Yes, he answers. There's no use pretending otherwise. Why, she asks. No accusation. Just curiosity. He could say he wasn't thinking. He could say it was late, he was tired. He could blame it on emotion. Instead, he tells another truth. Because I've been where she was, he says quietly. Outside with a kid and no place to go. Because I know exactly how it feels when people look right through you like you're a problem to push away. Someone helped me once when they didn't have to. I didn't want to be the guy who said no when I knew I could say yes. The room breathes with him. Amelia studies his face. Harris, she asks without looking away, is he usually like this? Jordan has always been emotionally invested in guests, Harris says carefully. Many good reviews mention him by name. But he doesn't always align with the business side of things. Last night, Amelia replies, the business side of things tried to throw me out. And the emotionally invested employee gave me a room and a shred of dignity. She walks slowly around the table until she's standing a few steps in front of Jordan. Stand up, please, she says. He does. He's taller than her now, but feels small all the same. What's your daughter's name? She asks. Maya, he says. She's 6. Does she know what you do here? Amelia asks. He can't help a small smile. She thinks I run the hotel. For a second, something soft flickers across Amelia's face. Maybe it's time, she says, we start moving you in that direction. If stories of people at the very bottom being seen, really seen, by the people at the top resonate with you, hit subscribe so you don't miss more stories where compassion shakes the entire hierarchy. Jordan blinks. I'm not following, he admits. Amelia takes a breath. Mr. Brooks, she says, voice steady. As of today, I'd like to offer you the role of front desk supervisor. His world tilts. Supervisor? He broke policy. How is this happening? Is this a setup? A test? Or did risking everything for a stranger just unlock a door he never even knew existed? For a heartbeat, Jordan is sure he misheard her. Supervisor, he repeats slowly, like he's trying on a word that doesn't belong to him. I violated policy. Yes, Amelia says. And if you make a habit of using your personal wallet instead of our systems to solve problems, we'll have another conversation. There's a tiny spark of humor in her eyes. But what I saw last night wasn't recklessness. It was courage, compassion, initiativa. She pauses. In short, she says, it was leadership. The word hits him harder than terminated hit Kevin. Leadership. Him? The guy taking the bus home in a wrinkled shirt, praying his rent clears? He almost laughs, but nothing about her face tells him she's joking. We can teach procedures, she goes on. We can drill policies. But we cannot teach someone to genuinely care about the people standing in front of them. You walk toward the person everyone else was eager to shove out the door. That matters more to me than the rule you broke getting there. Mr. Harris looks like a man watching the ground shift beneath his feet. Miss White, with respect, he interjects, promoting someone who just. I'm not asking, Mr. Harris, she says calmly. I'm informing you. She turns back to Jordan. The position comes with a raise, better hours, and an actual voice in how this lobby is run. And I will expect you to use that voice. This place needs people like you to shape how we greet the world. Jordan feels the air thicken. His heart hammers. He thinks of his apartment. The past due notices on the fridge. The jar where he shoves loose change for Maya's future, like he's trying to build her a staircase out of coins. He thinks of his daughter at the little table, drawing buildings with glowing windows. He thinks of every time he's been told to follow policy while his conscience screams something else. I don't know what to say, he manages. Say yes, Amelia suggests softly. And say you'll keep being the man your daughter already believes you are. That cracks something in him. He feels the burn at the back of his eyes, embarrassment rising because he doesn't cry at work. He can't. But this is not just about him. It's about every version of him who's ever been told that kindness is a weakness. That sticking to the rules is more important than sticking to your own humanity. He swallows hard. Yes, he says finally. Yes, ma'am. I'll take it. Good, she says. We'll sort out the paperwork this week. For now, go home. Sleep. And maybe tell your daughter she wasn't entirely wrong about you running the place. He lets out a disbelieving laugh. Yes, ma'am. He turns to leave, then hesitates. Emily, he blurts, then corrects himself. Sorry, Amelia. Thank you. For everything. She meets his eyes. Thank you, she replies, for last night. He steps out into the hallway, the door closing behind him with a soft click. One night ago, he was just another exhausted front desk clerk, hoping no one would notice he bent the rules for a stranger in a hoodie. Today, he walked out on a supervisor because he refused to let policy be more important than a person. If you were sitting in that chair, being offered a promotion for something that could have gotten you fired, would you trust it? Or would some part of you still be waiting for the rug to be pulled out from under you? Let me know how you think you'd feel at that moment. As he rides the elevator down, fingers closing around his name tag, one thought keeps looping in his mind. How is he going to explain this to Maya? And more importantly, what does this mean for the little girl who's been dreaming of warm lights and safe rooms her whole life? The sky is turning gold when Jordan unlocks his apartment door. It sticks like always. He has to give it that extra shove with his shoulder to make it open. Daddy. Maya's voice fires across the room like a flare, cutting straight through his exhaustion. He smiles before he even sees her. There she is, curls wild, pajamas mismatched, colored pencils scattered across the wobbling table like a tiny explosion of color. I finished it, she announces, waving a paper. He drops his bag and kneels beside her chair, every muscle complaining and every worry suddenly quieter. On the paper, there's a tall building. Dozens of windows. Every one of them is glowing yellow. In front of it, two stick figures holding hands, a big one and a small one. What's this? He asks. That's your hotel, she says proudly. The Aurora Crown. And that's us. Us. Him and his daughter, drawn right there at the entrance like they belong. She leans in, voice dropping like she's sharing classified information. One day, we're going to live in a place with lights like this, she whispers. With big windows and a warm kitchen and my own room and everything. Right. His chest tightens. He thinks about the cash he laid on the counter last night. The money he gave away. The promotion he could have lost everything for. He thinks about what Amelia just offered him. In our own place, he says carefully. With lights that are always on when you come home. She nods, satisfied. Good. I already drew it. They go through the bedtime ritual, toothbrushing, water sips, one more question, one more hug. Tell me a story, Maya bargains as he tucks her in. About what? He asks, sitting on the edge of the bed. About a hero, she says, eyelids drooping. He almost laughs. He thinks of last night. Of standing in that lobby, heart pounding, knowing he was about to do something that might cost him his job. Of Kevin's smirk. Of Lily's nails tapping out judgment on the counter. Most heroes he knows from TV and books don't worry about late fees and broken elevators. I'll tell you tomorrow, he says quietly, when I'm not running on 2 hours of sleep. She hums a protest, then drifts off, breathing even and small. He stands in the doorway for a long time, watching her. Then he closes the door, leans his forehead against the wall. So, supervisor, he murmurs to himself. Guess we'll figure out what that means. If stories about ordinary people making extraordinary choices give you that ache in your chest, the good kind, the human kind, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss where Jordan and Maya's story goes from here. Back at the hotel, the lobby will look different under the unforgiving morning lights. Busier, sharper. In less than 2 hours, he'll be back behind that desk, wearing the same name tag with a new responsibility he never saw coming. And when the internal line on the desk phone lights up and Mr. Harris orders, conference room 3. Now, for the second time. Is this just the beginning of the changes his one act of kindness set in motion? 2 days later, something small but important changed on Maya's drawing. Jordan notices it when he comes home early, a perk of his new schedule. The tall hotel building is still there, more windows now, more yellow lights. But next to the front doors, she's added a tiny rectangle. What's that? He asks, setting down his keys. Maya beams. That's your special card, she says. For your boss's door. My what? He chuckles. Your boss door, she repeats, dead serious. You said your job changed. So you have a boss door. He laughs, ruffles her curls. I have a little office, he corrects. Barely big enough for a chair and a coffee cup. Office, boss door, same thing, she declares. On the table next to the drawing lies a real key card. Not one that opens rooms anymore. This one's been deactivated. Room 1215. Gold edge glinting softly in the afternoon light. The room Amelia, Emily, had that first night. He'd changed the reservation in the system after she checked out under her real name. He'd tried to hand her an envelope when she came down. The cash difference plus a little extra she'd quietly pressed into his hand. Put into staff training, he'd said, giving it back. Use it to make sure no one else stands in that lobby and feels like they don't belong here. Her eyes had warmed. Deal, she'd said. He'd kept the key card instead. Now he slides it into a cheap black frame he picked up from the dollar store and hangs it above Maya's bed. She looks up at it, eyes shining. It's like a badge, she says. Yeah, he replies softly. Something like that. Back at the hotel, things are shifting. Mandatory hospitality training isn't just about how to smile or how to upsell a suit. Now there's a whole section on bias, on judgment, on what it actually means to be a 5-star property when the person in front of you has nothing but a backpack and a tremor in their voice. Amelia keeps appearing in the lobby. Not with an entourage. Not from the back elevator. She comes like a normal guest. Sits quietly. Watches. She pulls staff aside with simple questions. How do you feel when a guest looks like they can't afford to be here? What slows you down when the line is long? What would make it easier for you to choose compassion instead of panic when you're under pressure? And they tell her, because somehow they can tell she actually wants to hear it. Jordan finds himself speaking up more in meetings, suggesting things. A small emergency fund so staff can help in rare cases like Emily's, with accountability, but without fear. Clear written policies that say, in plain language, we serve people, not outfits. Supervisors listen. Management listens. Because now, when the CEO asks, what are we doing to make sure guests are treated like humans? Everyone scrambles to have an answer. Watching someone at the top respond to a single late-night act of kindness by changing the whole system beneath them, if that makes you think about times you wished one decent person would speak up where you work or study, drop your story in the comments. Someone else might need to hear there are other people like them, trying to do the right thing. One evening, as Jordan is double-checking the night roster, he hears a familiar giggle coming from the lobby seating area. He looks up. Maya is perched on one of the plush chairs, feet swinging, talking animatedly to Amelia. Wait, what? He breathes. His daughter, chatting comfortably with the CEO of the entire hotel group, like they're old friends. As he walks over, heart suddenly racing for an entirely different reason, one thought rises above the rest. What on earth is Maya telling her? He crosses the lobby faster than he means to. Maya spots him first. "Daddy," she calls, waving him over like she owns the place. Amelia stands as he approaches, smoothing her blazer. There's no superiority in her posture, though, just warmth, and a hint of amusement. "Sorry if she's bothering you," Jordan says quickly. "I told her she could wait in the lobby until my shift ended, but—" "She's not bothering me at all," Amelia cuts in gently. "We were talking about her drawing." Maya holds up the latest version. The hotel is even bigger now. More windows, more lights. This time, there are 3 stick figures at the bottom. A tall one, a small one, and another tall one with long hair. Jordan peers at it. "Who's this?" he asks, pointing to the 3rd figure. "That's Miss Amelia," Maya says matter-of-factly. "She helps you help people." A flush creeps up his neck. Amelia's eyes flick to his, searching his face, her own cheeks tinting just a little. "Well," she says lightly, "I do my best." Maya leans toward her, dropping her voice to a secret stage whisper. "Daddy tells me stories about heroes," she confides. "He thinks I don't know he's one of them, but I do." Jordan opens his mouth, completely unprepared for this ambush. Nothing comes out. Amelia doesn't break the moment with a joke. She doesn't dismiss it. She just smiles at Maya and says, with surprising certainty, "I know." They step outside a few minutes later, just for a breath of air. Jordan holds Maya's hand on one side. She reaches for Amelia's on the other, without asking, like it's the most natural thing in the world. The city buzzes around them, car horns, distant sirens, people rushing past. But under the hotel's broad awning, with warm lights spilling out onto the sidewalk, it feels like a world apart. Maya tilts her head back to look up at the building. "You know that picture on my wall?" she asks. "The one with the lights?" Jordan says, "Yeah." She nods, gaze fixed on the rows of glowing windows. It's starting to look like real life. He swallows past the lump that forms immediately. "Yeah," he murmurs. "Yeah, it is." Beside him, Amelia looks up too. "Funny," she says quietly. "I've spent my whole life looking at this hotel from the top down. Boardrooms, reports, aerial photos in glossy magazines. I didn't realize how different it looks from down here." "Down here," Jordan replies, "is where it counts." She turns that over, then meets his eyes. There's something unspoken there, respect maybe, or solidarity, or both. If seeing a CEO literally step down to street level and admit she didn't understand what things look like from down here makes you want more stories where power learns humility, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss them. They stand there for a moment. A man who once thought breaking a rule might ruin him, a woman born into ownership learning what her empire feels like at the front desk, and a little girl drawing their future before any of them can fully see it. The night that almost cost Jordan his job has now. Fired 2 people who wielded prejudice like policy. Promoted the one who chose compassion even when it hurt. And started transforming the entire heartbeat of the lobby. But there's still one piece missing. Jordan hasn't yet told Maya the full story of that night, the insult, the fear, the choice, and the twist. When he finally does, will she see her dad the same way? Or will she see him as something more than even he believes he is? It's a quiet Sunday afternoon when the story finally comes out. Maya is sprawled on the rug, coloring. Jordan is at the table with a stack of papers, new supervisor schedules, training notes, his own scribbled ideas for little ways to make things kinder at check-in. "Daddy," she says suddenly, "why is that card on my wall special?" He glances at the framed key card above her bed. "That one?" he asks. She nods, crayons paused in her hand. "That's from a night I almost got into big trouble," he says. Her eyes widened immediately. "You did something bad." He considers the answer. "I did something against the rules," he says, "but I don't think it was bad." He tells her the story. Not every painful detail. She's only 6. But enough. The girl in the hoodie. The shaking hands. The nasty comment about the black guy playing hero. The money from his wallet. The fear that he'd lose his job. The shock when Emily walked into that conference room as Amelia White. Maya listens like it's the best bedtime story she's ever heard. "So you helped her," she says slowly, "when everybody else was mean, and then she helped you back." "Pretty much," he says. "Because you were kind first," Maya adds. He smiles. "Yeah, because someone else was kind to me once, and I didn't want to break that chain." She thinks for a moment, then says with the blunt honesty only kids have. So the rule was wrong. He raises an eyebrow. What do you mean? If the rule says don't help people when you can, she explains, waving her crayon for emphasis, then it's a bad rule. Good rules help people, right? Out of the mouths of children. He nods slowly. Sometimes, he says, rules keep things fair. But sometimes they're written by people who forgot what it feels like to be the one who needs help. And you remembered, she says. Her voice is so matter-of-fact it almost hurts. You're a hero, she adds, like she's pointing out the color of the couch. He laughs, shaking his head. I'm not a hero, kiddo. I'm just a dad who didn't want to sleep at night knowing someone was out there with nowhere to go. She shrugs. Sounds like a hero to me. He doesn't argue, because maybe heroism isn't about capes or headlines. Maybe it's about choosing compassion over convenience. About letting your humanity cost you something. Later at the hotel, he watches a new hire check in a weary guest with 2 kids and not enough cash. He sees the moment her eyes flick to the emergency fund protocol. He sees the split second where she could have said, sorry, that's policy. Instead, she glances toward him. He nods once. She turns back and says, let me see what I can do. The tiniest smile touches his lips. One late-night decision, and now dozens of people will avoid the cold sidewalk because someone behind that desk feels safe choosing kindness. If you've ever had to choose between protecting yourself and helping someone else, and you did it even though you were scared, I'd love to hear what happened. Your story might be the one that reminds someone tonight that they're not crazy for wanting to be decent in a world that tells them not to. Amelia passes the front desk on her way out one evening, watching the interaction. Nice save, she says under her breath as the guest walks away with a key instead of a rejection. Jordan shrugs. Just trying to live up to my new title, he says. Which one? She asks. Supervisor or hero? He rolls his eyes, but his ears burn. She grins, then nods toward the lobby. Looks like your daughter was right, she says. You kind of run this place now. As the automatic doors slide open and the city air rushes in, one question lingers. If one small act of defiance of compassion can change an entire hotel, what could 1,000 of those acts do to an entire world? The camera would pull back here, out from the lobby, up past the awning, up the glass facade of the Aurora Crown. Lights in hundreds of windows flicker on and off. Tiny stories we'll never know. But we know this one. A black single dad behind a front desk. A girl in a gray hoodie with nowhere else to turn. Coworkers who use policy and brand as masks for bias and cruelty. A CEO who chose to feel what it was like at the bottom instead of just reading numbers at the top. And one moment in the middle of the night where everything could have gone the other way. Jordan could have told himself, she'll figure it out. This isn't my problem. I have a kid to feed. He could have stayed on the safe side of the counter. Instead, he pushed past the fear in his chest and slid his own money across that polished surface. He chose compassion over rules, humanity over prejudice, the hard, scary yes over the easy, comfortable no. That choice didn't just keep one girl off the street. It exposed a rotten part of the culture. It cost 2 people their jobs, not because they enforced rules, but because they weaponized them against the vulnerable. It earned him a promotion he didn't ask for, but absolutely deserved. It changed training manuals, emergency procedures, and the way dozens of staff members think when a suspicious guest walks in. And in a little apartment 3 floors up from somebody else's cooking smells, it hung a framed key card on the wall of a 6-year-old girl who now has proof that her dad doesn't just talk about heroes. He acts like one. Sometimes, at night your kindness almost costs you everything. Is the night it hands you the key to a different life. Sometimes the person you think you're just helping survive one bad evening is the person who walks in the next morning with the power to rewrite your future. And sometimes the smallest decision to look someone in the eyes and see a human being instead of a problem is the one that echoes loudest long after the lobby goes quiet. If stories like this remind you that there is still room for decency, courage, and real heroism in everyday life, hit that subscribe button so you're here for the next one. Because there are more Jordans out there, and their stories deserve to be told. So the next time you're standing at your own front desk, whatever that looks like in your life, and someone shows up shaking, short on what the world says they should have, what will you choose? the safety of a rulebook or the risky, beautiful, costly decision to be kind.